Hi there. In this lecture, Mikhail Tal is playing against A. Russell. This is from the 13th Olympiad qualifier, Group 1. So Russell was representing Ireland. So 1958, E4, E5. We see knight F3 from Mikhail Tal, knight C6. D4, it becomes a very, very dangerous looking Scotch Gambit. Black accepts, knight takes C3. We see D6, bishop C4, and already a mistake from black, bishop E7. This is a punishable mistake, even at this early stage. Knight F6 is one of the better moves, because after queen B3, which needs to be factored in here, looking at that F7 soft spot, black has actually a move here which is very important, queen D7, and should be fine. For example, knight G5, there's knight E5 just in time, hitting the bishop, protecting F7, and this situation is very interesting, but overall it's thought to be about equal. If we look at this again, by the way, if queen E7, that runs into a horrible pin, bishop G5, and white's getting a much better position there. So bishop E7, though, is a mistake. It allows queen B3, and this is very awkward how to defend F7. If knight H6, we can just snap that off. So black tries knight A5, but the problem is bishop takes F7 check, king F8, and now queen A4. It's worth doing this to displace the king. Just get that knight on A5. Okay, black has the bishop pair, you might ask. Isn't that compensation? Not enough, it seems. Bishop E6, white castles, king F8. Now knight D5, a very interesting move, looking at C7, pretty direct stuff. C6, now knight C7, so threatening knight takes E6 check, forking queen and king. So we see bishop F7, and now knight D4, renewing the threat of knight E6 check, either knight to E6. The queen moves. If B6, this is a disaster after knight D E6 check, for example, this check, and now queen C3, so keeping an attack against the queen and looking at G7 to win H8. This would be the way for white to do it. And in fact here, there'd be a very clever move, knight C7 check, to be able to rely on a pin there against the bishop, against the queen. So this is the most accurate way of playing it, it seems, to win the rook without any issue at all. For example, no issue of bishop F6 because we take the queen. If we're winning the rook, yeah, the queen's not really trappable. It's a big advantage for white. So, okay, we see queen C8, just losing the exchange. It's a very, very bad start for white, for black rather. White's got a massive advantage here, clearly, out of the opening. Knight F5, B6, we have the queen dropping to C3, looking at G7 here. Bishop F6, but now the queen switches to G3, looking at D6. So D6 is now really under fire. Knight E7, queen takes D6, king E8, and now a beautiful, beautiful undermining style tactic move. Can you spot it? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, what would you play here? And it is actually one of the top engines, choices. If you look at this with top engine, this is one of the top moves in the position. So for 200 points, what would you play here? Okay, black is really undermined with this next move, bishop H6. Very, very flashy move and functional. Rook G8 is played. If G takes, then it, F6 is undermined. We just take on F6, looking at the rook, looking at E7. If knight takes, we just take, and then we take the queen. So that's a disaster. So yes, it's a very unpleasant position, this position. If knight takes over E takes, we're opening up the E file. So we have rook G8, but now rook AD1. We have queen C8. Here, if G takes, then best is actually just to take the bishop. Queen D7 is not working as a mate pattern as there's bishop E8, just to show you, just in case you're wondering here. This is not going to work because black's snuck in bishop E8 as a resource. So it's much better the straightforward. I mean, even if that position happens, it's still, there's a lot of interesting possibilities, but the best way is just simply to take on F6 to threaten the mate, and black's helpless here. Knight D6 check, for example, winning the queen. And here, if knight takes f5, then e takes, and this e file, if the king moves, then queen takes h6 and f6. It's all pretty devastating stuff. So lots of brilliant options for white there. So we see actually queen c8, but now another kind of undermining move. So yeah, how do we undermine black in this position with a tactical shot for 100 points here? White to play. Okay. Bishop takes g7, so threatening queen takes f6 among other things now. We have knight takes f5. So just to rule things out, if bishop takes, then we just mate on e7. Weakness for the last move, thanks very much. If rook takes, then we just take on f6, and this is crushing. For example, here we can play rook d8 check, winning the queen. So knight takes f5 was played. E takes. Bishop e7, rook fe1. Bishop e6, very desperate. Rook takes e6. Rook takes g7, and now f6, crashing through with f6. Black resigns here on move 26. End of game. If rook f7, yeah, we're just going to checkmate pretty soon, actually. Pretty clear cut, indeed. So yes, a crushing game there, showing that the Scotch Gambit has a lot of venom if it's not played correctly by black. And actually, to be honest, I've had an over-the-board game where I think I also played bishop e7, thinking that, well, at least I get the light square bishop. But we did look at it after, back then, and, white should have gone in for this. So this Tal did go in for the absolute correct recipe here. Just take on f7 anyway, and then just hit the a5 knight. It ends up as a nice advantage. We've stopped black, naturally castling. And there's coordination possibilities. Tal immediately goes for knight d5. So immediate issues with the missing f7 pawn, if you think about it. It's already kind of an undermined position, because f7 pawns are supposed to support pieces on e6. And it's funny how basically this knight d5 is connected with that missing pawn in a way, because it's targeting e6. Immediately targeting e6 after knight c7, and again targeting e6. So the missing pawn on f7, that odds given here is pretty devastating. Kind of king safety odds, at least, because white had already gambited earlier. So it's actually equal on pawns, but it's just a less solid position than usual, especially with a king not having safely castled. So yeah, a magnificent game, but the star move, here, this switching, majestic queen movements, winning a pawn there, and the beautiful bishop h6, really star move of the game. A fantastic undermining move. No move is outside of consideration, it seems, for Mikhail Tal. So he's a bit of a human computer, but in a creative sense. None of the drudgery of computers, just beautiful creative moves we witnessed, like bishop h6. Fantastic stuff. And showing the Scotch Gambit is also a pretty dangerous weapon of choice. Okay. Thanks so much. Hi there. Thanks for getting to the end of the YouTube video. If you would like to see other Mikhail Tal games, I actually have an amazing course for Mikhail Tal, which is currently at 4.9 with over 400 students. You can check this out from the Kingscrusher TV page. So Chess Strategy and Tactics, Mikhail Tal's amazing games. You can check out some free preview videos as well here. If you do expand all sections, you can see the preview links to get some free previews. So I hope you do check out this course index and the free previews. So I really had a thrilling time actually checking out Mikhail Tal's games. So yeah, the YouTube video here you saw was just a sample from this course. I hope you check it out. Okay, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, comments, questions, likes, shares, all appreciated. And if you did get to this part of the video, please do leave some sort of comment like Tal fan. Okay, thanks again.